Y ahora le toca el turno a Clara Cardia, arquitecta y magistrada en diseño urbano. Actualmente es profesora de planificación urbana en la Escuela Politécnica de Milán y director científico del Laboratorio de Investigación de Calidad Urbana y Seguridad. Anteriormente ha sido profesor de diseño urbano y de historia urbana de la Universidad de Ginebra, Suiza, y en la Universidad de Columbia en Nueva York y París. Obtuvo un doctorado en Historia Urbana en la Escuela Politécnica Federal de Lausana, en Suiza, y comenzó a trabajar con Oscar Newman en las primeras etapas del libro Espacio Defendible. Desde entonces, la preocupación por la seguridad y la pobreza en las zonas urbanas ha sido el centro de su obra. En los años 80, cuando la inseguridad comenzó a convertirse en un problema grave en las ciudades, fundó LabQuiz, Laboratorio de Investigación en la Escuela Politécnica de Milán. Con el laboratorio ha desarrollado numerosos proyectos para lograr seguridad a través del diseño urbano y la planificación en los municipios italianos. Démosle la bienvenida a Claudia Cardia, por favor.
Good morning. Very shortly, just thank you. I accept it with great interest, as I have specialized so much in European questions during all my work on safety. I'm very pleased to be here and to have contact with the Latin American world. What I'm going to tell you today is a kind of historic reconstruction of where we come from. What we are, where we are. Okay. 2012 is an anniversary. First 40 years since the publication of Defensible Space, the famous book of Oscar Newman. And somehow we can say it is a more general anniversary. It is the anniversary of the birth of environmental crime prevention. So I thought to take this opportunity today to speak to you about research that we just finished at the Polytechnical School of Milano, a research of 5 years on the history of crime prevention, and which is now being is under press. So the idea is we want to study where we come from to understand where we go. History is always an important source of inspiration to structure our thinking. It helps us to understand continuity, sometimes discontinuities. It gives us a sense of direction, and especially it provides roots and profoundness to our thinking. I think that all our practical work, the interesting subjects which have been treated just before me, they need a backing which is profound, gives us roots and knows where we go and where we come from. 40 years ago, crime prevention has started to consider environment as a meaningful aspect, and that's where we will start. I will articulate my speech in 4 phases, or my analysis in 4 phases. The first, the beginnings. The second, the golden age. Third, separation. And fourth, toward a new paradigm place. If there is more time, I would like to talk to you about the fifth phase, which is the transfer to Europe, but maybe there is not enough time. So we have heard that an important book has been written in 1961 by Jane Jacobs, Death and Life of Great American Cities. 3 books, in fact, in those years become the founding text for the new ideas of environmental crime prevention. Besides Jane Jacobs, which I'm not going to mention because it has been so well explained by Gregory, there has been a second extremely intelligent and genial man. It's Clarence Jeffrey. A criminologist who worked with Gregory, I heard today, and who had this really a fundamental revolutionary idea about thinking crime. Jeffrey started considering the errors of all the crime policies which had been carried out and came out with this revolutionary theory which suggested that attention should be shifted from the offender, from those who commit crime, to the context in which crime is committed. He makes a distinction between what is the internal environment of the offender and what is the external environment of the offender. That is, internal environment is his background, his motivation, maybe his psychological problems or biological problems. And the external environment of the offender is the surrounding. What around him facilitates, supports, even determines the criminal behavior. This was, in those years, a really totally inversion of traditional thinking. The third book by Oscar Newman, Defensible Space, is well known. You all know it. It is the idea. It starts from Jane Jacobs' idea, and it tries to transform them into practical tools for design, and to subtract, by this idea, to subtract space to crime. This was very shortly the founding fathers, I call them, the first phase. The second phase is the golden era. The theory is not enough to open up a new field of prevention. Innovation in ideas needs operational support. And this is a very important aspect. We cannot only think if we don't construct the structures for implementing, there will be no progress. In the case of the United States, we have a very positive synchrony. In 1968, just when these ideas are coming up, an important law, the Safe Street and Omnibus Crime Control Act, is passed. Although the main focus of the law is on law enforcement and police reform, it contains a small key element which in our perspective is fundamental. For the first time, it states officially that prevention is recognized as a strategy to fight crime. Up to now, the laws had not recognized to prevention a primary role in fighting crime. We can learn a lot from this law and what followed. First, a law to be effective needs support in terms of organization and in terms of financing. So, a federal agency was created, the Law Enforcement Administration, known as LIA, with a big funding. Second, so we have a structure and money. Second, to promote new ideas, you need brains. you need to put together, to find an opportunity to put the best brains together and to create new thinking. For this aim, a small, very significant structure, which is still very famous in the United States, the National Institute of Justice, was created. It was a think tank of LIA. It oriented the scientific content of the new activities. Rapidly, it became the cradle for the development of new ideas in the field of environmental crime prevention. Third, we need experiments. To test ideas, we need new experiments. So LIA and the National Institute of Justice promoted a series of important experimentation, which are known as the historic projects, and are today considered as the milestones for environmental crime prevention. Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis, Hartford, Flint, and so on. Revisiting these projects, I really suggest to do it, is very inspiring. The most important aspects of what we do today is linked or is already rooted in this project. But I will stress one important aspect which was common to this project and which is the biggest lesson they give us. They had an interdisciplinary approach. That means that the National Institute of Justice had put together SEPTED approach, community action, and new policing techniques. They had integrated them all in all the projects that it was supporting. Fourth, we learned that experimentation, to be useful, needs to be largely known. I think one of the biggest problems that we have all over is that we make experiments, sometimes some very good ones, but they stay there. What the National Institute of Justice did in these years is that it selected projects and made them to national examples. They were reference models. They were spread through all over the country, disseminated all over, and shown how a good practice of environmental design could be handled. The third phase is separation. The golden period lasts, unfortunately, only 1 decade. At the beginning of the 80s, a traumatic event happens. In 1982, the LIA, Law Enforcement Administration, is closed down, mainly for political reasons and reasons of corruption. This means the end of government-promoted and financed experiments in environmental crime prevention. The closing of LIA marks the beginning of a difficult period because it had been the backbone of this young, new approach. But one positive heritage stayed. In a decade of experimentation, it was accepted that environmental crime prevention strategies had acquired an official status. They were recognized as important strategies to fight crime. So we have